Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Top 25 matchup in the SEC. Another really interesting one. So obviously Kentucky's hosting Florida. Oklahoma is traveling to Alabama. I would argue there might be no more interesting game, in my opinion, than the Arkansas Razorbacks. Yes, they are quietly back in the top 25. Not sure if you've heard of them. John Calipari's coaching them. They are traveling to Knoxville to face the #1 team in the country, the Tennessee Volunteers. A lot to get into. We're recording before there's a point spread. Obviously, Tennessee is going to be favored. I think it could be by a reasonably sizable margin, 8, 8.5, 9. But let's go ahead and dive in. And I do want to start actually from the Arkansas side of things, because I think it's interesting how narratives form. By the way, this is not an Arkansas shirt. Let the record show. It's a Jerry Tarkanian shirt. So Vol fans, if you're watching, don't get mad. Oh, Torres is wearing Arkansas colors. He hates my team. That's not the case at all. Let's dive in. Okay, so Arkansas, I think they're really interesting because the last time I think a lot of people really kind of noticed Arkansas, paid attention to Arkansas, certainly a few weeks ago in that Michigan game at Madison Square Garden. But really, remember, that game they played on Thanksgiving Day against Illinois. That was coming right off an NFL game. It will probably go down as maybe the biggest TV audience any college basketball game has until March of this year. It was coming off that NFL game. A lot of people stayed tuned in. I think the number was 5.5, 6 million people were watching that game. And so that was a lot of people's last impression of Arkansas. But here's the crazy thing. Since that game, something funny's happened. Arkansas has actually been playing pretty well. 6 straight wins since that Thanksgiving Day loss. Like a lot of teams, they haven't played a ton over the last couple weeks. The most notable win in that stretch is Michigan, but 6 straight wins. And what stands out to me, you know what to me the biggest difference is with Arkansas now versus 5, 6, 7 weeks ago when they were maybe struggling a little bit more than they are? I think it's actually the impact of a former Tennessee Vol, Jonas Aidoo. Now, listen, if you look at the stats, if you look at the, the numbers, if you look at the box scores, like Jonas Aidoo isn't standing out from he's getting 24 and 14. This night he had 27 and 11. Like, that's not the player he is, and that's not the player he's ever going to be. But if you watch Arkansas, they are such a different team with him, not only in the lineup, but healthy. Because for people who don't follow this on a day-to-day basis, he played early, but really wasn't at about 100% till probably around January, December 1, December 5th. Really, that Michigan game was the first time that I felt like Jonas Aidoo looked like the guy that we all saw at Tennessee a year ago. And again, the stat sheet wouldn't fully tell you it, but I think defensively they are a completely different team. And I think really more importantly from Jonas Aidoo, what he does is he really allows everybody else on that roster, especially in the front court, to kind of fall into the roles that I think John Calipari envisioned for them in the preseason. Adou Thiero at certain points, or I guess it's Adou Thiero now, by the way. He's always been Adou Thiero to me, but that's the big storyline this year is that he's telling everybody that we've all been pronouncing his name wrong. So forgive me, Adou, but Adou Thiero, listen, he's playing like an All-American, okay? But this was a kid that early in the season, there were games where he had to kind of play at the 5 spot, and that's just not a place that Adou Thiero should ever be playing. And so he is now playing at the more natural 4 spot where he can kind of freelance a little bit, weak side shot blocking, all that good stuff. But he is more in a natural position. On top of that, Big Z now doesn't really have to be that 5-man where he's defending other teams' 5s and he's got to play 36 minutes and not get into foul trouble. Now he can play his 18 to 22, 18 to 24, whatever it is. Put up a couple threes, look good, wear the headband, put up the 3, whatevers. And I think play more naturally in his spot. And it's the same with Trevin Brazile. Brazile was hurt early like Jonas Aidoo. He comes back, and now he's kind of that freelancer guy that just plays hard and hustles and has energy, was awesome in that Michigan game. So I think Jonas Aidoo has really been a key for this Arkansas team. By the way, also worth noting, in the backcourt, feels like the pieces are starting to come together. Now, the big question there, Nelly Davis, what is his status? He's missed the last couple games, been dealing with a wrist injury since the preseason, tried to play through it, did not play well. The last we heard from John Calipari going into Friday, the day before the game is that he could be back. We don't know if he'll be back. But I do think that is a key piece. But also, I think that Arkansas has done a good job of kind of figuring things out without him. Boogie Fland is playing like a freshman All-American, one of the best freshmen in the country. Not only is the team's second leading scorer, I think what's noticeable on Boogie Fland is a few things. Won a couple really big games the last couple weeks against Michigan. He had 20 points. The last time Arkansas played, 24 points, 5 of 8 from 3. And the other thing that really stands out, I mean, he's hitting the 3 ball well. As I remember going back to that exhibition win over Kansas in October, and I remember saying, like, that's the one thing. I don't know if he's really a 3-point shooter. Well, he's shooting the 3 ball well. DJ Wagner has quietly been playing very well over the last couple weeks, 41% from behind the 3-point arc on the season. And he has had some big games. I thought the Michigan game was maybe the best game that he has played as a college basketball player. 16 points, 5 assists, 2 of 3 from 3. And he's followed it up with a couple really nice performances against the mid-major competition that Arkansas has faced since then. From the Tennessee side of things, listen, let me say this. I forget where I said it. Maybe it was on Twitter. Maybe it was on social media. I can't remember. I am starting to think. I think Rick Barnes might legitimately, this sounds crazy. I think he might legitimately be the most underrated coach in all of sports. That sounds blasphemous, but listen, first of all, in like college football, nobody's like, oh, you know who's underrated? Dabo or whoever. It's like, we kind of know who the guys that are really good are, and we kind of just acknowledge, Ryan Day can't beat Michigan, but he's really good. Whoever, nobody's immediately coming to my mind, but you get the point. Is like, oh, we all think whoever, Steve Sarkisian's really good, whatever. Point I'm trying to make, think about college basketball. Like if you asked even a diehard college basketball fan, like, who are the 5 best coaches in college basketball? Is Rick Barnes in that conversation at all? I don't think he is. I do think that's ridiculous, because the bottom line is every year they lose guys, and every year they just don't miss a beat. Last year, remember, listen, people talk about, Rick Barnes in the NCAA tournament. Well, last year, they made the Elite Eight. UConn and Purdue were very clearly the 2 best teams in the country. They lose to Purdue, played them as tough as anybody in the NCAA tournament. You ask Tennessee fans, and I think they're right. Tennessee plays anybody other than UConn or Purdue in the Elite Eight, they're probably going to the first Final Four in school history. You lose Dalton Connect, how good are you going to be? Oh, next man up. Oh, Chaz Lanier is awesome. Who would have ever guessed that Chaz Lanier would be this good? And I'll say this, I got to take the L on Chaz Lanier. I remember doing all of our portal stuff, all April, all May. This guy Chaz Lanier pops up, and Kentucky wants him, and BYU wants him, and Tennessee wants him. And he was great at North Florida. But I remember even saying at the time, like, okay, he had one good year at North Florida. How good could this guy possibly be? Oh, he's freaking awesome. My bad. Averaging 18 a game, 46% from 3. And the crazy part is, it's not like he doesn't take a lot of threes. Like, sometimes a guy will shoot 46% from 3, and it's like, well, he's only taken 11 threes on the season. No, this guy's taken 111 threes. He's averaging, I think I said 18. It's closer to 20 points per game, but he's shooting 46% from 3. Beyond him, Zakai Ziegler, unbelievable. Zakai Ziegler is just such an awesome college basketball story. 4 years, same school, no transfer. Obviously had that awful situation with his family's house in New York. Vol Nation, I give so much credit, helped raise money to get him into a new home. But he is playing, again, I don't think because it's Tennessee, because it's whatever. Zakai Ziegler is averaging 8 assists per game, 12 points, 8 assists, close to 2 steals a game. I haven't done like midseason All-American teams. He'd have to be in the conversation, would he not? I mean, he has been unbelievable. 8 assists per game. And I think more importantly, here's the other big thing. Don't ever forget this. As good as they are offensively, Tennessee is always a defense-first program. And it's hard to be like, oh, this is the best defense they've had under Rick Barnes, because they're top 5 pretty much every year in defense. But yeah, they're really freaking good this year. On the season, how about this? Tennessee, number 2 in the country in field goal percentage defense. Only Houston is better, holding opponents to 34%. They are number 2 in the country in points allowed, 56 points per game allowed. And oh, by the way, number 1 in the country in 3-point defense as well. And so listen, I could go on and on. Let me say this. Tennessee's the number 1 team in the country. I do think you can kind of question a little bit some of the scheduling stuff. Now, the Illinois win on the road is incredible. I'm not taking that away, but you beat Baylor. Baylor had just played like a triple overtime game the night before. VJ Edgecombe doesn't play. Syracuse isn't very good, whatever. I bring it up to say, is Tennessee the best team in the country? I don't know. But what I do know is this. I don't think at home to open SEC play, this is the game where they take their first loss. By the way, they go on the road at Florida next week, so maybe that's where. I don't think this is the spot where they take their first loss of the season, though. Bottom line is, listen, I do think Arkansas has improved. I do think they are a very good team. I think they're going to finish top 4, top 5 in the SEC. I think they're actually a little bit underrated at this point as they've gotten healthy. I just think that's a buzzsaw that Greg Sankey and the boys in the SEC office decided to send them into to open SEC play. That is a tough place to play whenever, but when Tennessee is playing the way that it is, I just don't know that this is the spot that Arkansas comes in and pulls off the upset and gets the signature win of the John Calipari era so far. So I'll say that Arkansas and Tennessee is a final score of Tennessee 80, Arkansas 68. I don't think it's an indictment on John Calipari. By the way, I don't think it's an indictment on anybody. I just think in SEC play, we got to be ready for the fact that a lot of good teams are going to lose a lot of games, especially on the road. Give me Tennessee to win, as I said, 80-68 to beat Arkansas and improve to 1-0 in SEC play, 14-0 overall. And of course, next week they will enter the season. They will enter the first full week of January at number 1 in the country.